Welcome to the Rocket Rewind, the show where we get together and talk about things that matter, things that are interesting, and shit that might just blow your mind. Yeah, they're our opinions, and you don't have to like them. We might not like yours either, but feel free to share them in the live chat. This is America, where we have free speech, cancel culture, Karens and Darrens, all working together in such super sweet harmony. Yeah, right. Sometimes the things we talk about might help restore our faith in humanity, but all too often it's going to be stuff that might piss you off like it does us. Make sure you have your grown-up panties on and come join the conversation. Oh yeah, and make sure you subscribe and turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss this weekly dose of provocative discussion. The Rocket Rewind, Sundays at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Let's get into it. Viewer discretion is advised.
Woo! Happy Sunday. What is up, everybody?
What's going on?
Hey, good to see you.
I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. You're probably going to notice some technical difficulties from me tonight, just for this week only. I'm switching internets, so.
No problemo, buddy. No problemo. Let's see who we got in the chat over here real quick. I see Brooklyn, Emergency Response Vids. What's going on? Good to see you. Taylor Ray Tonch is here. What's up, Taylor? Good to see you. John Wayne is here. What's up, John? Good to see you. Jorge is here. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the stream. Gaming with Eric Boyce is here. Marcy B, what is going on? Hey, what's going on? How's everything over there in Athens, man? It's a beautiful day around here today, isn't it? It's a change from all this rain we've been getting, and then it's moving back in again tonight. Oh my God. Michael Tingley, what's going on? Good to see you. So I'm not sure where Steve is. He's been having some issues. He was injured at work, so he's been having some pain issues. So I'm not sure what his status is. I'm waiting to hear back from him. Adam is running late today. Getting back to the house, he's got caught up in traffic, tending to some things. So hopefully he'll make it here in a little bit. So for right now, you just got me and Stacy, and we're gonna go ahead and start talking shit because
I'll do my best to fill in for Adam.
All right.
When I fill in for Steve, I'll just talk shit about Colorado the whole time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Eric says that Mississippi and Louisiana and South Alabama are back under tornado watches again. Man, I tell you, the weather has these tornadoes and things, man, like Amory, Mississippi and Rolling Fork, Mississippi. They got some really bad storm damage.
I have not heard anything about that. My son and his mother live in Birmingham, and she hasn't told me anything.
Yeah, that Amory and Rolling Fork are up more on the northern part of Mississippi.
Okay.
So it's we got some warnings and stuff here, but it didn't touch down anywhere around Huntsville. There's Corey Earlywine. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Yeah, Marcy, I tell you what, I wish the weather would stay like this all the time. I really do. It's been so nice today. I've been trying to get a little stuff done outside, all that fun stuff. So as you can tell from the title of our panel this week,
hey Brooklyn, what's going on?
Officer William Darby with the Huntsville Police Department, who was convicted of murder for shooting Jeffrey Parker back in, I believe it was 2021. Yep. His conviction has been overturned by the Alabama Court of Appeals. And so since we talked about the original incident, I figured it was only right that we would come back and talk about this this new development. Some people are happy about it. Some people are pissed about it. I understand the reasoning behind it. And so before we get into the information about the conviction itself, for those that may have missed the original, I'm going to pull up the body cam footage and we're going to show it. Now, this was released by the courts, but this one is actually coming from AO.com's YouTube page. I'm going to warn you in advance. This is graphic. It does involve someone getting shot by a police officer, which means if we were monetized, this video would not be. But no big deal because we're not monetized yet, right? So we're going to look at this first. This is 4 minutes and 15 seconds. It has a couple of different angles. It's just like the important parts of the video. We went a lot deeper into the videos last time and watched some before and after the incident and all that. So let's go ahead and get into it, and then we'll talk about the conviction overturned. But this is graphic, so if it bothers you, you might not want to watch this moment.
Huntsville Police.
Huntsville Police.
All right, now this officer that's standing at the doorway, this is Officer Pegas, female police officer. The body camera angle we're looking at right now is from Officer Beckles, and it's going to swap between different body cams throughout this little clip here.
Hey,
Yeah, 1018 for several powerful lanes.
10-3.
Hey, I need you to stand up. You guys doing
10-3, 1035 threats to Doramus.
Charlie.
All right, now those of you that didn't catch that, Officer Beckles just radioed in 10-3, which is hold all radio traffic, so that they could focus on this and not have a whole bunch of extra radio chatter happening. So a lot of times when they're responding to a call such as this where somebody's armed, or if they're responding to a house burglar alarm or a business burglar alarm and it looks like there may be someone in there, they'll go 10-3 to cut the radio traffic.
Hey, what's your name?
1049 towards head.
Why you want to take your life, man? Huh? Sure got on drugs?
Charlie 44, can you spin on your phone?
10-3, 1049 towards head.
She's upstairs. What's her name? What's going on today that you want to take your life?
Put your fucking gun at him. Put the gun down.
Put the gun down. He has it to his head.
All right, now that voice you heard hollering just then, that is Officer William Darby, who just got on scene for that. Who is the officer who was convicted of this murder charge?
I don't want anything to happen to you right now. I don't. Listen, he's right here in front of me. Hey, look.
Hey, brother.
All right,
Put the gun down.
That's Officer Darby right
Put the
there.
gun down. Hey, brother. Put it down, bro. Put the gun down.
Put it down. I'm not going to kill you again. Please, please, lower the gun.
44 shots fired.
Now this is Officer Darby's camera view here.
Just like to say, it's probably not very smart running with that gun like that.
Put your fucking gun at him. Put the gun down.
He has it to his head. I don't want anything to happen to you right now.
He can shoot you.
See,
Hey, look.
Hey, brother.
Put the gun down. Put the gun down.
Hey, brother. Put it down, bro. Put the gun down.
Put it down. I'm not going to tell you again.
Please, please, lower the gun.
They did clip that portion out.
yeah.
Now this is
Huntsville Police.
Yeah.
So this is Officer Pagias's camera here. Hey Taylor, Taylor's watching on Facebook as well.
Oh, hey Taylor.
So we've got this is Officer Pagias was the first officer in the doorway. She probably has the best camera angle of the cameras as far as where she was standing and what you can see.
Yes, 1018 for 7.
Tell them 10-3. Hey, I need you to stand up. He got a gun to his head. Hey, what's your name? Why you want to take your life, man? Huh? Sure got on drugs? Is anyone else in the house? It's some. She's upstairs. What's her name? What's going on today that you want to take your life?
Put your fucking gun at him. Put the gun down.
He has it to his head. I don't want anything to happen to you right now. I don't. Listen, he's right here in front of me.
Wait a second.
Okay.
Did you hear that? Listen real close when she says, I don't want anything to happen to you. Listen, I'm pretty sure Mr. Parker says, I'm not going to shoot you.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to happen to you right now. I don't. Listen, he's right here in front
Yeah,
of me.
he said I'm not going to shoot you.
Yeah. So the gun is to his head.
Yeah.
It's blanked out somewhat on this video for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But
I just that Officer Darby. Granted, I understand the reason for the overturn, and I'm not saying I disagree with it. Right here, he didn't see what she saw, and she's trying to de-escalate the situation.
right.
But like the point your fucking gun at him, that's creating a more hostile environment for this guy who's already in some kind of peril.
Yeah.
Up here, you know.
I totally agree with you. Hey, John and Blade, what's up, buddy? It's good to see y'all.
Hey, look.
Hey, brother. Put the gun down. Put the gun down. Hey, brother. Put it down, bro. Put the gun down.
We don't want you to take your life. Please, please, lower the gun.
Hey, Cody Froman, what's up, buddy? So that is that's the body cam footage from that shooting. So back when we originally reviewed this, I personally know William Darby. I've worked with him several times, being in asset protection, and always had good interactions with him. He's always interacted very well with the suspects. I know it's a tough thing to see when something like this happens, and I don't wish any ill on any police officers. Right, they've got a hard ass job out there. It is a very difficult job. They have to make split-second decisions, and those split-second decisions can mean life or death for them, other officers, or suspects. Right? I wouldn't want that responsibility. And so, regardless of our opinions on this specific case, I don't want anybody to misconstrue that I'm anti-cop or, anything like that. I do, however, think that in this situation, I feel like Darby acted too quickly.
Yeah. The fact that he was running up, literally running gun from, this is the easiest way I know how to describe it. Number one rule I've been taught in guns, granted, I know it's different police department, but you shouldn't be running with a shotgun. Move briskly, but don't run. Yeah. Unless your life's in danger.
Too easy to trip and fall and
yeah,
misfire.
Exactly. And they're so easy for them to misfire. But she seemed like she had it under control. Like the lady that was in there, I already forgot her name. I feel like such a piece of shit.
Pagias.
Yeah, Yes. She seemed like she already had it under control, and it seemed like the other gentleman that was in there, he was ready. Like, the other gentleman that was sticking his head in there, he was
Beckles?
ready.
Mhm.
Yes, and I don't know. It's like Darby. It's like he was trying to interject himself into something that, yes, he needed to be there for, but there was no need for the point your fucking gun at him. There was no need for that. Like,
Well, and this was April of 2018.
mhm.
Most police departments hadn't really begun a whole lot of specialized training on
Yeah.
mental
Mental
health.
health. Yeah.
These types of incidents are what brought about a lot of mental health training for police officers, and it's needed. I mean,
Yeah.
every interaction with every individual is different because there's so many different variables, right? And when you add into that altered mental status, whether it be from, drug use or, a true mental health issue, um, those have to be handled way differently.
Mhm.
Because I really, I'm like you, and Adam and I don't see eye to eye on this shooting. He feels, if I remember right, he feels it was more justified than I do. Um, I have no problems with police officers protecting themselves and other citizens and other officers. But in this situation, I really think Pagias had it under control,
Yeah.
at least for that moment. Right?
And
It hadn't escalated to the point where I think anybody needed to get shot. Now, here's what you got to understand in this. He called the police, is my understanding,
yeah.
and said he was thinking of killing himself. That was his cry for help, right? Now, when an officer gets on scene of any situation, they need to be very mindful that their life could be in danger. I totally get that.
Mhm. I feel
Right?
like it should be, it should flip the cards. For example, every time I've been pulled over, they ask for my license and registration. Where's your license usually at?
In the glove
And
compartment or in your back
yeah,
pocket in your
yeah.
wallet.
So
Mhm.
you let them know, like, hey, I've got to reach for my wallet. So again, I don't know how the training was in 18, but if I'm got someone with a gun to their head, I'd let them know, hey, I'm putting my hand on my hip because you're holding a gun, but I'm not going to pull it out. Something like that, just to let them know, like, I have to do this. Again, I don't know how the training is. I don't know how the training was. I've never been through a police academy, so I could just be talking out of my ass right now. I'm just trying to think logically, which unfortunately, a lot of the times that's not the case.
Yeah, sometimes logic doesn't play into situations like
Yeah.
this because there's so many variables, right? But I mean, I've
Hey, Mr.
known
Wizard.
all of them, and so that also makes it a little more difficult because I've
Yeah.
interacted with them all so much in the past that it's difficult for me. I like Darby.
Yeah.
I always did, and I still do. I just, unfortunately, this incident, I feel like there was still time to do some talking and some de-escalation, and some, let's get a supervisor on scene if we need to. Do we have a crisis negotiator? There's some there. I just think there was a lot of other shit that could have been done besides shooting somebody. Now,
Yeah, and I agree with Wiz. Lawful, but in quotations.
right. I do think that it fits within the letter of the law in that he has to have reasonable cause to fear for his life or the life of other officers. But the moment he stepped in that door, he had not witnessed any firearm, right? Until he pushes past the other two officers that are there And then he sees the weapon. But the weapon is still not pointed at any officers. It is pointed at his head. Yes, split second to turn
He
that
could turn it
gun
and fire,
and point it. And so I get where he's coming from, but I think that the better thing to do would have been for all three of them to back further out of the doorway and continue talking.
Yeah, and I don't,
bring it down a few notches,
Yeah.
Instead
I do
of
have the
bumping it up.
I do have the NIM certifications, and I do know that the if everyone is of equal rank, if you want to say, first person to show up on scene is in charge of that scene. Isn't he kind of breaking something, forcing his way into the door? Like with them already standing there handling it, like.
Well, I'm not sure how they handle hierarchy. I think that Darby possibly was one of the newer of the three.
Yeah.
I know that Beckles had been with the department a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure who was there, but as far as I know, they were all patrolman rank. There was none of them were sergeant or lieutenant or anything like that.
And I'm just going to put a transparent blanket statement on this. Anything I say about him while we're talking about this, I'm not saying he's a shitty person. I'm saying this is a shitty thing that he did.
Right.
Like,
same thing. Same here. I mean, because I really like all three of these people. But I put myself in Mr. Parker's place, and someone that is asking for help. You don't know what's in his mind. You don't know if it's his intention to hurt law enforcement when they get there. So don't put yourself in further danger. When Darby walks in, he then put two officers' lives in danger, himself and Pagias, who he pushed further in by coming in. He kind of pushed her further into a dangerous situation. I just really feel like, if he wanted to come take control of the scene, putting myself in that situation, I would have been like, hey, let's back out. Pagias, keep talking to him. He's talking to her. He's communicating with her. So there's some dialogue happening there. Let's try to keep that going, and let's see if we can escalate this down. I mean, she's at that point where she was just starting to establish rapport with him.
Mm-hmm.
She's starting to show empathy, show him that she cares. So she's going through some good steps here to de-escalate this situation. And I think it just got too hasty, too fast, and I think that's where the mistake was made. I do think the officers' lives legally, you can justify that they were in danger. Someone had a firearm within feet of an officer that could have been pointed at them at any moment. That's like, if the police go to stop somebody and they can see that they've got a gun in their waistband, I don't believe police need to wait until that gun comes out. But the moment they start moving towards that gun, it's becoming a threat.
Yeah,
I can see that more justified than this. And so, but what we think is not necessarily important. What's important is what the jury of 12 believed, and they believed that he was guilty, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for this murder charge. Now, the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals heard the case, and let me get it up on screen here.
I was reading up on this earlier.
Let's see. Let's get it on the screen. So, and this was recent. Like, this has just been within the last couple of days. This is on. So he was found guilty May of 2021. Sentenced to 25 years in prison in August of 2021. And So let's get into why. So Broussard, who is the Madison County District Attorney, Robert Broussard, he says that it's a technicality is how this conviction got overturned.
Yeah.
Now, I guess let me explain a little better. So the conviction being overturned does not mean that Darby was released from prison and he's now not guilty. That's not what it means. What it means is this being pushed back to Madison County for another trial. Darby gets a new trial with a new jury, and so all is not lost for those that feel like Mr. Parker needs justice and Darby committed a crime. There's still a chance for this to be presented to another jury. But Broussard says it's a technicality and that the evidence was not the problem. The judges with the appeals court ruled that jurors should have been told to consider the situation in the context of how a trained police officer should have responded, right? So down here in, let's see. So the ruling that overturned it was 62 pages long, right? But the key point is the court found that the jury did not receive proper instruction from the judge overseeing the case. The judge instructed the jury on the law in self-defense, but the law of self-defense as it applies to a citizen, not to a police officer. And there's a different standard there.
Yeah.
So the opinion is very clear that police are under a totally different standard than the average person. And in a way, I think that's right. Because police officers are in dangerous situations every time they pull somebody over, they stop somebody on the sidewalk, they walk up to a house. I mean, every moment they have that uniform on and they're working, their life is potentially in danger. But I also think that we've got to be real careful that we don't put police officers on this pedestal that they can do no wrong.
Yeah, I don't want this to open a door,
right?
To, because I mean, it'll just go back around to what all the bullshit has been about for the last couple of years. Like, oh, police, his life was in danger, so he did what he had to do.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a very valid argument.
Yeah, it is. But you've got your extremists out there who are like, nope, the cops are never wrong. Those people. And their first jump is, what, did the other guy have a gun? Okay, then his life was in danger.
And that's the thing too, is, the mere possession of a weapon is not a crime in Alabama now.
Yeah.
Now the law has been changed so that you can conceal a weapon on your person in the state of Alabama without any special permit. Now, the laws of convicted felons aren't supposed to possess weapons. All those are still in effect, but there's no permit requirement anymore.
Yeah.
Now that makes things more dangerous for officers in a way, in that now they have to assume everybody is armed. But then on the flip side of that coin, that also makes things more dangerous for civilians out there, because now they have to understand that police officers are going to assume that they're armed.
Yeah.
And so, I think that both the individual the police are stopping and the officer have their own sets of responsibilities, right? The suspect should not run from the cops, should not point a weapon at the cops, all those kinds of things. But the police officer's first response should not be violence either.
Yeah.
De-escalation can go a long ass way. I respond much better to someone talking to me in a normal tone of voice than somebody yelling shit at me or giving me bullshit directives, right? Like sit down on the ground. Well, I'm not a fucking dog. We can talk, and you keep whatever distance you need from me, and I'll keep my hands visible for whatever makes you feel safer, but I'm not going to be treated like a dog. And I think sometimes I think the argument of officer safety sometimes can go a little too far.
Yeah. Well, I see what Wiz is saying here. And Wiz, I'm not making the argument that a cop's life is not in danger at all times. I'm saying that I don't want this to turn into police officers using that as an excuse to just react without thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to look at the totality of the circumstances in every instance, right? Some shootings are going to be justified. Some shootings are not. Some people are innocent and some people are not. Some people are criminals and some people are not.
I like Brooklyn.
Yeah, Brooklyn says he needs his own shirt and hat. Yeah, we'll probably get one soon. But you know, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to lean towards the side of law enforcement. That doesn't mean I'm a bootlicker. It doesn't mean I think that law enforcement can do no wrong. It's just that I understand some of the shit they have to deal with. And it is split second decisions that we can sit and talk about for hours on end and dissect, that they don't have the time to dissect like that.
Yeah. When I was 16, I lived with a police officer. I wasn't staying with my parents at the time. I was living with a police officer in North Charleston, South Carolina. And there were times where he came home and like he didn't talk. There were times where he came home and he was fine. You know, we'd work out. He was one of my workout buddies, and you know, he's my legal guardian, workout buddy, everything. But then there were times where he came home and like me and his stepson, we just knew not to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what happened that day. We'd see it on the news that night what happened that day.
They see some shit, man.
And there's stuff they don't see. And I mean, it hurt him just to have to arrest someone in front of their kid. So I can only imagine what else like he sees that bothers him, you know?
And hey, Kyle, what's up? No problem, buddy. Welcome to the stream. So I think a lot of people who are anti-cop kind of push this us versus them mentality that some officers have that mentality. I'll give them that, but you've got to remember that on the other side of that badge is another human being also. And nobody is perfect. Nobody is infallible. Everybody has better days one day than they do another day. But if we're going to allow things like qualified immunity to protect officers that do certain things, we also have to understand that if we're going to give police officers special powers, they also have a higher level of responsibility.
Yeah.
And anytime a police officer comes into contact with somebody, there's a chance for either of the two involved to get hurt, either the officer or the citizen. But anytime the police show up and they put hands on somebody and they handcuff somebody, freedoms are being taken away, whether it's justified or not, right? Anytime somebody's arrested, their freedom has then been taken from them. And I'm not against that. I think criminals need to get locked up. Don't mishear me. But I mean, I've sent many a damn criminal to jail my own self, but I just think that, it's like I mean, it's going to sound cliche or whatever, but like in the Batman movie with this, power comes great responsibility. And it really is that way. Oh, is it Spider-Man? Okay, Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man. Okay. All right, yeah. I knew it was one of them. I'm not super into the whole superhero. I'm my own superhero in my mind. But it's a difficult thing, man, to see an officer that I knew and respected involved in a situation like this. I don't ever want to see any officers involved in shit like this. But unfortunately, because of the nature of their job, they are going to be involved in this. Sometimes they have to shoot people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a simple fact of it. We don't have to like it. I don't like anybody to lose their life. A citizen, police officer, somebody in the military.
Yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, when it comes to the point where you have to protect yourself, and this is where a lot of people disagree with me and don't like me. God, I see my camera jumping everywhere. This is where a lot of people disagree with me or don't like me over this opinion alone. If I have to defend myself, empathy and sympathy both go out the window. If I'm having to save my own life, I don't have time for either one of those two things.
Well, and that's the thing. Police officers
But
have to be very.
That's if I'm to the point of having to save my own life, not because I think my life is in danger. Like,
yeah, you can
like
have your breakdown later. Yeah, you can have your breakdown later after the fact. And I mean, I feel like most police officers understand the gravity of what they do, and that anytime that gun comes out of their holster, someone's life hangs in the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Either theirs or other officers or their suspect. And I have seen tons of very justified shootings. And now in this day and age of social media, news gets out there quick. Everybody's got a cell phone camera. There's recordings of different things. That's not a bad thing. It does make shit look worse than I think it really is, because you hear about the bad news first. I don't think that there's this epidemic of police officers just going around killing people just to do it. I just don't. I think that
Neither do I.
I think that 99.9% of these police officers out there have their heart in the right place. They're trying to serve their community, and they're trying to do the right thing. But they want to go home too. And I think that's the part that a lot of folks forget about, is that behind that badge is that human being who is a husband, a wife, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter. They've got family. They got a lot of shit going through their mind when they're on these scenes, and they're trying to compartmentalize and deal with what they got to deal with. And, Stacey, you've seen those videos out there. I think you may have even suggested some of them before, where ordinary people are put in police officer related situations with these fake guns, and it's like, do you shoot or do you not shoot?
Yeah.
To see how they react. And most of them shoot. Most of the time they shoot.
Yeah.
Because we as human beings, we have this instinct of self-preservation. That's just part of us. And every human being is going to try to preserve their own life.
And it's going to sound dumb comparing it to a movie. I like to think of it a lot. Think of Men in Black when they do the gun training scene. He goes in there and he has the, why do you think little Tiffany had to die? And he makes his explanation about what he was thinking. Imagine that whole explanation down to like a second.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to, and this is after, you've been analyzing stuff. And that's the thing, is like, and now it seems like I flipped my hat on what I was saying earlier about Officer Darby. But I mean, that's the thing, is like, up to the trigger pull. We also, initially when I watched this, I was watching from, not that I've ever been in that situation, but I was watching from the perspective of Parker's wife, or Mr. Parker himself, thinking, I'm just trying to get help. Why did I just get, I just get killed?
And that's the thing, is that with all the other things that police officers have to deal with, I don't think that they're prepared for, nor should they be expected to perform as a mental health professional. There's people that go to school for years and years and years to be able to work with mental health patients. And I just don't think that officers can be trained that deeply. But there needs to be some alternatives in situations like this. And an officer needs to understand, hey, wait, this is above what I can handle.
Yeah, the
Right.
only option to have the perfect understanding police officer is to have each one have a doctorate in psychology.
Right. And how possible is that? Hey, look
Hey,
who's here.
Steve.
What's up, Steve?
What's up,
Can you
guys?
hear
Sorry
us?
I'm
Oh,
late. I fell asleep.
I hear you now. All right. Yeah,
Can you hear me?
figured you was on your pain meds there. Yeah, you're very delayed though.
I'm sorry. I took them meds and it laid me out.
Yeah. So we were talking about this Darby case. You know, he's now up for a new trial since the Court of Criminal Appeals has overturned his verdict. His guilty verdict. You remember that one with the shooting the guy? He walks in with the shotgun. The other two police officers kind of had it under control. He walks in
in the house.
Yeah. So the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals, you know, has they have overturned his conviction, and he now gets a new trial with a new jury in Madison County, here where the original trial was held. And that's kind of what we're talking about. So my major concern with it is that with the case, let me pull it back up on the screen here. But with this case, you've got some very strong sides here, right? So police, let's see. So the reason it's being overturned is because the judge instructed the jury on the law of self-defense, but self-defense as it applies to an ordinary citizen, not to a police officer. So that opinion made it clear that police are under a totally different standard than the average person, which I think in some cases is good, but in some cases is bad, because we really can't put officers on a pedestal and feel like they do no wrong. Now, when Darby's wife, I think her name is pronounced Keelan, she says she put out a statement that said, today's decision by the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals is welcome news for our family, as well as all of the brave men and women who serve in uniform across the country. City of Huntsville released a statement. The city of Huntsville believed that there were serious errors in the Darby trial. We are grateful for the opinion of the Court of Criminal Appeals, which validates those concerns. We remain committed to the judicial process and confident in that process. The Fraternal Order of Police is pleased that Ben Darby's case has been heard and overturned, and that it's a great day for law enforcement. Madison County District Attorney said he was somewhat surprised by the conviction being overturned, but that it was basically a technicality. So because the judge gave instructions on self-defense, but not self-defense of a reasonable officer, that's how the conviction got overturned. So, you know, the simple facts are still there. I sadly, even as much as I like Officer Darby, if I was on that jury, I really feel like there were other things that could have been done.
I agree.
Several
I agree
other
100%. You know my feelings on that initially. I feel as though he way escalated that situation beyond the point of where it needed to be.
I feel like the whole. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, if he's trying to get an appeal, I don't see how that's going to go in his favor.
Well, and it may not. It's going to be another jury of 12 people here in Madison County that are going to be picked to decide if he's guilty or innocent.
Watch you end up on that jury list.
No, they wouldn't put me on there. I would get excluded. Because I've had too much interaction with the Huntsville Police
Right.
Department, and
Yeah.
and
Hey, Chris.
the questions they would ask me would have me removed from the jury pool.
Hi, everybody in chat. Sorry I didn't get a chance to say hi yet, but I do want to acknowledge everybody who said hello.
Yep. What's up, Chris and Dustin
I
K?
feel like the entire thing could have just been de-escalated with talking.
Well, she was already in the process of doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really
without
feel like
sounding realistic and not trying to sound harsh. Worst that happens, he takes his own life. And I mean that in a what could happen way. I don't mean that as an I don't care way.
Well, if he's currently in jail, I don't think
And then
that
in that case, we just have it.
He's talking about the suicidal guy that Darby shot.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
That's who he was talking about.
Yeah,
What's up,
the
Don?
guy that he shot. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And I'm not trying to sound like insensitive when I say that. I'm saying like after all is said and done, that's the worst that happens. Which we didn't. You don't want that to happen. You don't. You don't want anyone to take their own life.
Well,
but
he called for help.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think he was going to do it, just based on the fact that he was being reasonable with Pagosi saying, "I'm not going to shoot you."
Well, and that's my big hang up in this, is that knowing all three of these officers, I know how empathetic Pagias can be. I have seen her talk to people numerous times.
I said her name wrong. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It took me forever. I used to call her Pecos. You know, I just think, from knowing her, I really think she could have de-escalated that down to the point to where that dude would have put his gun down and they'd have been able to get him some mental health.
Yeah.
Help, you know. What's up, Digger 337? Welcome to the stream. Dom, good to see you. Brooklyn says I should suspend you without pay since you're not wearing your shirt. He's got his hat on. He's okay.
I got my hat on. I literally just rolled out of bed. I'm like, I don't have time to look for the shirt.
You know.
Yeah. Now, so, but my sticking point is, I understand there was a firearm there, and that yes, technically officers' lives could theoretically be in danger. I can get that argument. But I just feel like if the officers started backing out of that house and just continued to talk from him from a safer distance and a safer vantage point, I don't think that he wouldn't have gotten shot by an officer. And he may still have shot himself, because if someone is to that point where they're committed to killing themselves, it's going to happen.
Well,
but then too, Officer Darby wouldn't be in prison for murder. So a lot of shit went wrong there, and it had, the turning point was the moment Darby walked up, and that's what bothers me. That's what bothers me, because I like him so much. It hurts me that this happened, and I don't want to see him go to prison, but I also, but police officers can't just move straight to violence, and that kind of shit's got to stop.
Yeah, I agree. I feel as though that the guy who had the gun to his head, I feel as though that Jeffrey Parker.
Yep.
I feel as though that if he was really going to do it, he probably would have done it, instead of sitting there, calling 911, waiting for somebody to show up, then talking to another officer and having conflicted thoughts about taking his own life. If he would have, if he was that committed to where he was going to take his own life, he would have already done it. He wouldn't have even called 911. And the reason I say that is because I know somebody who actually took his own life, and this was after I tried my best to talk this guy out of it. And I spent He was going to go home early and he was going to go kill himself. And he told me this as he was leaving, and I grabbed him and I wouldn't let him leave work. And I sat there and I had a 45-minute conversation with this guy. And when he was done with me after this conversation, he seemed to be okay. And he left work that day in a better mood, and I saw him the next day. What was funny about that is that he talked about taking his own life every single day that I was there. To me, he wouldn't tell anybody else. It was to me. I don't know why he confided in me, but he did. And when they transferred me out of that building and they sent me to another store, it wasn't a week later after I had left, he actually committed suicide.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I've heard arguments both directions, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that it's very common for someone who's about to kill themselves to reach out for help, whether they're going to take that help or not.
Right.
And
then again, you can't help somebody who doesn't want to help themselves.
Right. And I've heard that argument that, if somebody calls for help, they're not going to kill themselves. I don't think that's always the case, but
yeah,
logically, you would think if somebody's asking for help, they're having some second thoughts about it.
Yeah.
There's at least a chance that day they may not take their life. Like you would, with the guy you had outside work that day, he didn't go home and kill himself that day. That him mentioning that to you was a cry for help. And he got some help, but
yeah,
words can only do so much. If someone has a serious mental health issue, serious depression, talking ain't gonna fix it.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate to Steve here, because a couple people in the chat and you two, everyone knows where I work, but you guys know the environment or the department of my work that I do, where I am in my branch. When it happens here, they don't talk to anyone. Like they just find them. And that's where I'm going to play devil's advocate to Steve, saying like, not saying he wouldn't have done it, but I don't think he wanted to, because he seemed like he was calm. He was relaxed. He seemed like he wanted help, but he didn't want, I don't know, like he wanted them to try harder to help him or something. And I think that ultimately, I don't think Mr. Parker wanted to die that day.
No.
Yeah.
Even by his own hand.
And, maybe he was having very conflicting thoughts about that. So it's like, man, I'm going to do it. But I need somebody to talk me out of it. And maybe he was at that breaking point where, sometimes you need that support from somebody to just pull you back from that line. Because if you cross that line, that's it.
I don't know if you guys remember in the original video, it was to the point where his wife didn't even know that like he was in that state of mind, I guess, because his wife came downstairs saying, what happened? What's going on?
Yeah, she didn't even know. She had no clue.
She had no clue that he was down there in that state.
Nope.
And that's, that's the other thing too, is that a lot of lives were impacted that day.
Yeah.
Darby went to prison. He's got a wife. I'm not sure about kids.
Is he still in jail?
Yes. He hasn't been let out just because the conviction was overturned. He's just going to get a new trial.
Gotcha.
But as of right now, yeah, he's still in prison. Mr. Parker's life was taken. His family's lost a family member. Darby's family has lost a family member basically since he's in prison. Peguillas and Beckles are no longer with the department. I'm not sure if they left because of this.
Not to mention they had to see it. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of things that happen there, and that's the kind of stuff that an officer arriving on a scene doesn't have enough time to process all of that possibility and still do their job. It's too much to think about. You've almost got to you've kind of got to have a general understanding of yourself and your duties before you get out there on the street each day. You almost need to have some quiet time to kind of get your head in the right place, because every situation is going to be different, but you have to have I guess what I'm saying is you have to have an ultimate dividing line, so to speak. You have to have a certain set of morals and guidelines that you're going to live by and do your job by. And those are the kind of things that officers need to think about every day when they get out there. And really and truly, I mean, I think every human needs to kind of have that time to think some things out. Where is your line when it comes to protecting yourself? How far are you willing to go? How far is right? It's just but there's a lot. I mean, these officers deal with a lot, and it's real easy for us to sit here and break it down and talk about it when we weren't the ones on scene. But I feel like had I been the third officer, Darby, getting on scene, I don't think I would have taken over at that moment. I sure as hell wouldn't have pushed past an officer and pushed one further into the situation if I thought it was dangerous and put myself in danger at that point. If anything else, I would have told the other officers, hey, y'all need to back up some. You're in firing line.
She should have done that when he showed up on scene right away.
I feel like she was trying to nicely say that to him without being mean to him, because I feel like if she would have been mean to him, it would have shown some kind of hostility coming from her.
Yeah.
And again, I don't. You say you know her, so I'm gonna trust your judgment on her. You said she's good at what she does.
Yeah.
And it seemed like she was trying to tell him, like, I can see him. He's right in front of me. Like she said, I see him. He's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Guns to his head. And then Darby's like, oh, I mean, he could shoot you. Like, there was no need. There was no need to say that. But, like, that was her way of saying, like,
I got this under control.
Will you back up? Like, let me handle this? Like,
yeah. I feel like that was her way of communicating. I've got this under control right now.
Yeah, without seeming like she was being hostile. Because
right.
People's mindset is when you're in that, when you're in and we've all been in a, I don't want to say unstable, but we've all been in like a hostile state of mind at one point in our lives. And we think that the way someone's acting, even though they're acting that way towards someone else, we think they're acting that way towards us.
Right.
Because we're in that mindset that like our brain is on guard to look out for anyone who could be showing any kind of hostility.
Well, that's that self-preservation instinct that I was saying we all got.
She's trying to easily, like, nicely, in a mannerly way, tell him, like, will you get the fuck out of here? Like,
yeah. and I, that's what bothers me so damn bad is just that just a couple more minutes of talking could have made a world of difference in this situation.
Yeah.
It's like he walked in there and he was like, you know what? We're done talking.
Yeah. And that to me is not the Darby I know.
Yeah.
It really throws me off. Like, because he's always seemed very level-headed. And I mean, I've had him walk in our office and people are cutting the fuck up. These shoplifters just talking shit, calling him everything under the sun. And he maintained that decorum and never raised his voice, never lost his shit, never jerked any. And some of these assholes needed to be jerked up and slammed against the fucking wall, but he managed to keep himself under control. And this to me really felt out of character.
I'm coming to you for a job when I'm done with this. I know you know people.
I'm going to stick with what I said initially about that.
What's up, bad guy?
I want to know what happened to Darby before he showed up there to put him in that mindset. I want to know the moments that led up to that put him in a position where he felt as though he needed to take this guy out. There must have been something going on in his life. He must have had an argument. He must have had somebody must have chewed his ass out, or he had a bad traffic stop. Anything could have happened. I want to know what put him in that mindset. I think that is the most important thing.
I don't know that ever came out in trial, or at least nothing that I read about from anybody that covered the trial. Sorry, but it is important.
I'm fixing it.
It is important. I mean, because like I say, every situation has a ton of variables, and one of the variables is Darby's mindset that day.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. The whole situation bothers me. It bothers me for Darby. It bothers me for Beckles and for Peguillas, and of course, it bothers me for Mr. Parker, who I feel like was asking for help and did not get that help.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The whole thing's just it's a very unfortunate situation.
But see, and that's the thing. Every single time a police officer goes into work, there's a chance of them coming into contact with something like this. Right. And that's where we've got to be mindful of that. And that, like I say, it's very easy for us to sit here and, villainize Darby for it. But like you said, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah. Maybe that's something that needs to be brought up during his trial, his second trial.
Well,
what happened, what led up to that moment.
Well, and I think that his defense mostly focused on, hey, he did what he was trained to do. And
I could see where you're coming from with that, but that guy wasn't a threat to anybody else.
At that moment that he was shot, no, I don't think he was either. He could have progressed to a threat, but I think that there was not an immediate threat at that moment. And that's the part that bothers me. That's the part that I'm hung up on. I want to back up Darby, but I can't get past that. I can't get past the point that there was still some time to try some other stuff. Because if I'm sitting on my couch in my living room and I call for help and I've got a gun to my head, I've called for help. I want help. I don't want to get shot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Maybe that day he should have just called in sick and stayed in bed.
Well, or just, take it a little slower. Take it a little slower. Nobody was in an immediate threat at that moment. If you thought somebody was in an immediate threat, you could have come back outside the house.
Yeah.
Well. Now, if the guy stood up and started advancing towards officers, shoot. Take that shot.
I agree with that. But since this guy was sitting on his couch and he had a gun pointed at himself, he wasn't threatening anybody else. The only threat that he was to himself.
Now,
if anything.
But now it would have only taken a split second for him to turn that gun and point it at an officer.
Yeah,
and fire.
I know.
So I get the potential for the danger.
I also have a feeling that if that would have happened, you've got three officers standing on the other side of the room that could have taken care of that situation had that happened.
Peguillas
and they're wearing body protection. He's not.
Right. Peguillas did not have her weapon unholstered.
Right.
For the first part of that. She didn't unholster her weapon from what I remember until Darby said, point your fucking gun at him.
He should have never done that. That was just escalating the situation way beyond where it needed to be.
Well, I mean, after he said that, Mr. Parker even said, I'm not going to shoot you.
Right. Peguillas, is that her name? Peguillas?
Yeah, Peguillas.
I thought she was doing a phenomenal job.
I do too.
Before Darby even showed up.
And the second officer as well.
She had that whole situation under control, and he didn't even need to go in that house. He needed to stay outside, because look what happened. Like, he walked in the house, and the whole thing went to shit in like 30 seconds. Like, he wasn't in there. He wasn't even in there a minute.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm with you on that. I'm torn. Like, why? Like, what was the reason?
And that's the thing, you know, I think about the world that I want to live in and that I want my grandkids to live in, and I don't want people to be in fear of the cops. You know, law enforcement is a very vital function of our society. Um, but unfortunately, the bad things like this that happen overshadow the good that happens, right? And so I'm not going to lie to you. You know, when I when I get approached by a law enforcement officer, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, is this going to be a good cop or is this going to be a bad cop? And I never used to think that way. I never
Yeah.
used to think that way. I had, I mean, and I have the utmost respect for police officers, every one of them, even the ones that are assholes, right? Because they do have a difficult job. But it's like every other job. Some people are better at it than others. And when you're talking about people's freedom and people's lives, you can't half-ass your job.
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I knew, you know, I served as a deputy sheriff for a while, and I knew I'm not right for this job.
You know,
I
really,
didn't have the self-control that I think a police officer needs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quick to anger, and a smart ass, and
no,
yeah,
no way,
and,
no way. Come on.
What? No.
but I knew that I was not going to make a good police officer, and so I stopped doing it.
You know,
You
I'm
know?
sure there was different areas in the law enforcement spectrum that you probably could have explored if sheriff
Well,
wasn't your thing. Like,
well,
for example, I wanted to be a detective.
Well,
Like, I
now,
really wanted to do that bad,
now
and
I
I'm kind of
did.
glad I didn't.
I
You know?
did. I was working for the county prosecutor's office. So, I
Mhm.
mean, I was still involved in the legal field, just the court side of things.
Mhm.
And I was good at it. Yeah, I was good at that. And I did some digging, some investigating, some surveillance and different things like that. But the actual boots on the ground police officer, I was not a good fit for that. And,
Right.
you know, that was way back before police officers went through a mental evaluation. And that mental evaluation does weed out a lot. I've
Yeah.
known numerous people that have been cut from the application status with the police department because something
Sorry, Brooklyn.
red flagged.
I've gone through that. I've gone through that mental evaluation, and they do a lot of and they ask you some of the smallest, most minute things, and you wonder why, and then they come back with a huge question, and they expect your answer, as it should if you're telling the truth, how you would really react. They want your answer to be the exact same to that huge, life-changing question as it was to that super small question, when it's literally the same thing, just on a much grander scale. Right. Now, I didn't make the cut I just didn't make the final cut just because they had to go off of experience and stuff when they were choosing the last 20 people they were going to hire to be officers. And it's a strenuous thing, even though, like, you're answering honestly, you're telling them you're telling them the truth. You have to think. You don't have to think about your answers, because if you're telling the truth, you shouldn't have to think about it. But it's an interview, so you're already stressed,
right?
And they ask some pretty, I don't want to say dark, but they go to a little to the darker side when asking the questions that they ask. Like, you see this, if you came home and you see your I think one of them was like, you come home and you see your mother beat up, what's the first thing you do? And I'm like, don't know. I like, you know, like I didn't know how to answer that. That's the kind of stuff they do now. But like I said earlier, before, Steve, I said this before you got on. The only way to have the perfect mentally understanding police officer who can know how someone is reacting is someone who not only has a degree in psychology, but has years and years and years of experience in it and knows how people think and how to read body language and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's the thing. Yeah, you need police tactical training, you need mental health training, you need a legal degree, you need a law degree, you need to be a lawyer to be a cop. I mean, there's a lot of things you can pile up to make the perfect police officer, and still, because they're human, they're going to fuck up.
Yeah, right?
Because they're human, we all mess up. So I don't think you can pile on a whole hell of a lot more training to a police officer. However, a paralegal has to go to school for 4 years to get their paralegal degree. But a police officer goes through an 18-month academy. In most places, that's about the max. In most places, 18 months. Year and a half to have the power to take someone's freedom away or take someone's life. I feel like there needs to be a restructuring of law enforcement, not in a negative way, but I feel like there needs to be more school and more training involved. And I feel like they need to be paid better.
I've always wondered what it would be like if we have a thing in the military called, and it sounds like a corny thing, but we have a thing called warrior toughness. And it's an in the moment, eyes open while functioning meditation, breathing, stuff like that. And you do it. They teach you to do it just in your everyday stuff. Like, okay, I'm walking up to the chow hall. You know, controlling your breathing. You don't know what the line's going to be like when you get in there. You're going to be pissed off because the line's long. Go ahead and get ready for the line to be long.
Man, I have to have a fucking pep talk with myself in the parking lot before I walk into Walmart. I swear to God.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's pretty much what it is. It's just it's a mental pep talk, but it's done through like a series of breathing exercises. And I'll be honest, before I enlisted, I shit on it. I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, military doing meditation? No, this is stupid. But it helps. Like, it's how I semi-control my anger.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think as a society, we all can work on things. You know, I mean, yeah, we're talking about a case involving a police officer right now, but do you know, I mean, you know, we have police officers because people can't fucking behave.
Yeah.
You know, we have police officers because we have criminals. You know, we're never going to live in a perfect world. And, you know, there's going to be things that happen that, you know, I think you do have to look at it from an objective viewpoint on that. You know, if an officer makes a mistake and it's a minor mistake, you know, minor consequences, right? But you really can't make a mistake with somebody's life. I mean, if I panic and shoot somebody, I'm facing murder charges.
Yeah.
You know, or manslaughter charges.
Unless, of course, you're living out in Colorado.
There you go, Stacy. There you go. All right. Tell me about them Colorado cops.
Well, I'm actually referring to that video that we saw a couple weeks ago with that cop that shot that kid in the back of the car.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
That whole situation was ridiculous.
Something I said earlier. It's something I said earlier.
What did you say earlier?
Well, if we weren't sure if because I told him I thought you were probably heavily medicated from your back pain and stuff, and that you may not make it. And he was like, "That's okay, I'll fill in for him. I'll just bitch about the Colorado cops."
Don't get me wrong; they're not all cops in Colorado are bad. Just most of them.
Oh God. But I mean, I hate having to talk about this kind of thing, but I think it's important to see the differing opinions on things like this that happen, right? Because you've got the moment you say, "Oh, I think that police officer was justified," you've got a whole segment of society that automatically is labeling you as a bootlicker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Because everybody else is so anti-cop right now. It's ridiculous.
And
they don't want to know why you think that. They're just mad that you think that.
Right.
But I'm going to go back to my normal thing that I say pretty often, and that is Alabama law enforcement. If you want to look better, release some good goddamn body footage for us to review.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Stop hiding the body cam footage like it's some national security secret, and let's be open. Let's be accountable. Let's be transparent. There's a lot of good deeds that police officers do every freaking day.
Yep.
And we never know about it.
Yeah.
We're only going to hear about the bad shit. And I think that having a little bit more openness is a good thing, I mean, I've had real good success with being out and about with law enforcement in the area around here for the most part. And it's like everything else. Some of them don't like me because I'm an asshole. I don't like some of them because they're an asshole.
I can sympathize with them.
But I mean, it's I can't help you there, Dom. I'm not turning that feature off on my Discord. That's there to keep bots out, buddy. I'm sorry. But yeah, you have to have a phone number on your account to talk in my Discord. But this is not an open panel on tonight. Anyway, there's no link for people to judge. Mr. Bridges says personally he loves me because I'm an asshole.
I didn't say I hated him.
I don't think you're an asshole. That's the thing.
I can be. Let's put it that way. I can.
Sure. Well, I mean, everybody can be. Everybody. I know I am.
You Jedi mind tricked me into changing my name to Fucknut on Discord. What do you mean? Like...
That's right. But I mean,
we're 30 seconds in, right? Yeah.
We're more than 30 seconds in. But I mean, it breaks my heart that there's so many officer involved shootings that have to get talked about like this.
And I wish more people.
I feel for the officers too, and their departments and all their families, and the people's families of whoever gets shot. I mean, it's never a good thing. And I never think that it's okay to take another person's life. I think sometimes it's more justified than others, but I never think it's okay.
No.
And unfortunately, as a society, we've become so desensitized to other people that there's a whole lot of folks out there that don't give a fuck about other people.
No, that's fact. And it's unfortunate too, because it never used to be like that. It never used to be like that. It's just the way everything's geared now anymore, because it's all about hooray for me and F you. I mean, it shouldn't be like that.
No,
you guys you've heard me speak about how I am with my mother and stepfather. If I could give them one positive thing, it's that I was raised to have every conversation with an open mind.
And that's important. And I think that a lot of folks don't do that anymore. We feel like you have to be on one side of the fence or the other. sometimes you can straddle that thing because there's, it's like the whole Democrat versus Republican thing, right? Some ideas on one side sound fucking dumb to me, but sometimes the ones on my side sound dumb to me. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you've got to be an individual, and you've got to look at everybody else as an individual, and you've got to treat everybody with the same respect that you want. Right. And it's just, I don't like having to talk about all this negative shit. I want more positive law enforcement stuff to talk about, but God damn it, it's never put out there.
I got something positive.
What's that?
Okay, so a few years ago, when I first moved into my house,
mute his mic. Mute his mic.
You mute my mic. No, this is good, man. This is great. First off, I want to give a shout out to the Calhoun Police Department in my area. These guys are awesome. I bought my house about 7 years ago. Shortly after I bought my house, I had a buddy of mine that said that he was losing his house, and he asked me if I could watch his dog for him for a little while. So I had him bring his dog over, and his dog and my dog, they got along. Anyway, my dad was outside cleaning his car, and he had this other dog out there, and dog was just chilling out in the grass, doing his thing. And church had just let out across the street. I live across the street from a church. Somebody had come across into my yard without my dad noticing this. He was in the middle of vacuuming the interior of his car. They came across the street from church and stole the dog off my front lawn.
Oh my gosh.
They took the dog, drug him across the street, and threw her into their van and took off. My dad looked up just in time to see this woman wailing the dog into her car, and they literally sped down the road. He came in. I was asleep. He woke me up. I called the police. I reported it immediately. I don't know how they found the dog, but 30 minutes after I had made that 911 call, police officer came up the street. She gets out. She goes, "I heard you lost your dog." And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I got her right here." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." She opened up the back door. Opened up the dog, opened up the door, and dog jumped out. And I was like, "How? How did you find the dog?" And she goes, "I'm good." I'm like, "Yeah, you are." So it's just little things like that
well,
make me have faith in the justice system.
And see, that's the thing that I feel like if we had easier access to body cam footage, right, that if you wanted to show off the good work of that officer in that department and you got that body cam footage and you put it out there on YouTube, we could get more positive stuff happening.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, there's a lot of states that are very open with that. Alabama is definitely not.
That's a shame.
But I just, I think that police departments are really missing an opportunity for some, I don't want to necessarily call it PR because it doesn't, I don't want it to be like a propaganda smokescreen shit. You know what I'm saying? But let's celebrate these good officers out there too. There's a lot of good police officers out there that get no credit. People have no idea who they are. But the moment they have to beat somebody's ass or shoot at somebody, their name's all over the place. And, I just, that's the whole reason why I started my channel in the first place, was so I could go out there and I could just film scenes and I could show, hey, you can show off what the cops do and not get in arguments and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that works great. Sometimes it don't, but there's enough negative out there that, it would be nice if we could start getting some positive out there.
Yeah. I was in New York City last year. First time I've been to New York City as a non-truck driver. I'm able to go through Lower Manhattan and see all the stuff we've seen in the movies and visit the World Trade Center. And when I'm there, NYPD had teamed up with some local ice cream place. They're giving out ice cream. I mean, just like a truckload of ice cream. They're giving it away, and not a news camera in sight.
Yeah, because it's not going to grab the views, and that's my channel grows slow because I do try to be more positive. There's been several times I've had not so favorable interactions with law enforcement that's never made it on my channel because I don't want to become that channel, right? And so I cut a lot of that out to try to be more positive, but yeah, you're not going to see the news covering good deeds very often.
No.
Yeah.
It's a shame because
It doesn't
they're
sell.
all no, that absolutely it doesn't sell. They're all hell bent on death and destruction and
Yeah.
gloom and doom, and that's the lamestream media for you. That's what they do.
Yeah. So, well, we really don't have time to get deep off into anything else. I just wanted to kind of cover this conviction overturn here, and we'll follow back up once the trial's set and then a new decision's been reached and all of that. But this one kind of needed its own show,
Yeah.
for the most
And
part.
this one was tough because you present me if I knew nothing and you presented me with both sides, I would take both sides.
And that's I'm really, I mean, hell, it's a toss up. What's the new jury gonna think?
Yeah.
So the judge this time has to issue things on what a reasonable, you need to look at this from the viewpoint of a reasonable police officer.
Yeah, but and
Okay.
I mean at the same
So
time you can't control how someone thinks. You can tell them how they need to think,
Right.
how they need to look at it.
But what the jury's going to look at is two other police officers that were there that did not shoot that man.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what the first jury saw.
And
that's exactly what it is.
So I don't know. I mean, sadly for Darby, I don't know that it's going to go the way he's hoping.
I think it's going to go sideways again.
And that bothers me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to know that if I call the police for help, I don't need to fear for my life. I mean,
completely.
It's that simple.
And that was a good point you brought up. I mean, they're going to look at there was two other officers that did nothing as far as shooting him. So if they were there for the amount of time that they were there and nothing bad happened and this guy happens to show up and not even a minute in the front door, he killed the guy. I mean,
and that's the thing, the reasonable officer standard. What's the reasonable officer? You got three officers there. Two of them didn't think it was necessary to shoot, and one of them did. So how do you what do you say is a reasonable officer?
Well, yeah.
I mean because you can
tough,
it gets real gray area, right? In that the fact that he had a weapon, does escalate the risk of the officers' lives. I get that. However, the state of Alabama now, you can carry a concealed weapon without a permit. So are you telling me that if I'm out filming and there's a police officer nearby, the mere fact that I have a weapon on me, it has escalated that officer's level of danger because there is a weapon. However, I'm not a threat.
No.
But does he perceive it as a threat? See, there's a lot of dangerous gray ground there in that. And I think there comes a moment where that weapon starts becoming a bigger danger. That's when the shot needs to be fired.
But you could also look at it another way too. I mean, you're a civilian. A cop has a gun. Is he a threat? Is he a danger? So, I mean,
I know.
If anything, if you've got a weapon. Now, here's my experience in Pennsylvania. Anytime I've spoken with a cop where I've had my sidearm on me, they were cool with it. Like I used to live in Aston, and I used to run over to the Upland Diner over there, and that diner is very, very well known for Chester cops. to go in and eat breakfast, eat lunch, and I'm not talking one or two. I'm talking a lot. Half the restaurant is cops. I walk in the restaurant and I got a gun on my side. Everyone, they notice I have a gun because they all turn and they look at me and they're like, "Yeah, he's good." So, I mean, I guess it depends on where you are, you know.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, every individual also has their own thought processes, right, on different things. And it's, you know, I've heard I've had some people send me messages talking horrible about the Athens Police Department.
Mhm.
But I've never had any problems with them. You know, they've never had any issues with my cameras being around. But if I took the word for other people, they sound like demons.
Right.
But so
That's true.
everything is subjective, right?
Mhm.
You know, the interaction you have with the police department may be totally different than the interaction I have.
That's absolutely true.
And because there's like a million variables, your attitude, my attitude, the officer's attitude you came into contact with, the officer's attitude I came into contact with, the shit that happened to them that day, the shit that happened to us that day, you know, the song we just listened to on the radio in our car, because that can alter mental status as well. I mean, there's so much. And I feel for police officers these days. I do. God, they've got a tough ass job. You know,
do.
And
I know it's not the same for everybody, at least for myself. If I have a bad interaction with somebody, I definitely don't take that out on somebody else.
Right. And that's important.
That's just something I've always done. I don't take anything out on anybody else. I mean, if I have an argument with
you're muted.
You went muted.
You muted. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, if I have an interaction and I, you know, it's not a good interaction, and somebody else comes up to me on my side and says, "What's going on here?" My demeanor changed toward that guy because he didn't escalate nothing, and I have nothing against him.
That's in total transparency. That's difficult for me.
I mean, it's not easy to do, but
yeah, that's difficult for me to do, and I'm not always successful at it.
Yeah.
I know y'all have all heard me when I'm irritable. You know, a lot of stresses, you know, that I deal with sometimes spill over, and but I'm cognizant of that. I try to, you know, mind my tone. But
I get scared. I just turn the computer off.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Joe Boyd, what's going on, buddy?
See, even my camera doesn't even want to work.
So I don't want to get off into anything else. I think we're probably at a good stopping point here, but
right, Wiz.
You know, it's Colorado Police. Muted Steve's mic. I love it.
I was just about to say the Colorado got a hold of this and like, all right, watch this.
Yeah, but I do I do enjoy everybody. You know, I thank you all for coming and hanging out and talking about this. I know it's a little difficult thing. You know, someone losing their life is never an easy thing to talk about. And a lot of lives were changed in this one. So I don't know what we'll talk about next week. I got several viewer submissions that I need to go through and look at and see if we can pick some stuff out of there. There was another police officer involved shooting in Virginia that I had hoped we would get to tonight, but we'll have to push it to another one. Always something going on out there, but you know, show everybody, including police officers, the respect that you would want out there, folks. It makes the world a better place. So
I'm gonna try to find some positive stuff for next week, because
I'm emotionally exhausted over the bad news. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's sad and it's unfortunate, but I hope things work out for this, you know, for this officer Darby, and it's going to be tough, man, trying to convince a jury that that he's an innocent, and it just
Well,
The evidence just from the body cam is so damning.
And especially in this environment where it does seem like society is so anti-cop.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about now you're going to have 12 people getting to decide the fate of a cop.
Again,
man,
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's not even a good situation.
It's like your mom walks in on all three of you kids, and she only sees one doing something bad. She's only going to punish that one. Well, you know what I'm saying.
It depends on the mom.
Yeah, some mom be like, I'm just going to beat all three of those asses.
I'm not sure.
Wail your ass because you're doing it wrong, and I'm wailing each of your asses because you let him do it.
Yeah, because y'all saw him and didn't say nothing.
You might have done something I don't know about, or you might do something I'm not going to know about.
Exactly. So anyway, y'all try to be positive out there to folks. Show other human beings some decency and respect out there. We gotta get this world turned around, y'all. It's some shit, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm nervous for my grandkids and the world that they're going to grow up in, you know?
Man.
So anyhow, that is going to do it for this one, everybody. Come hang out with us over on the Discord if you want to. You can visit the website at rocketcitynewsnow.com, and there should be a link to the Discord there. Come hang out with us, talk about stuff, suggest some stories. If we get to know you, we might let you on the panel. Kind of depends. We would love to have some differing opinions. Most of us seem to have very similar opinions most of the time. So if you're anti-cop, that doesn't mean you can't come on the show and talk about stuff. I want to hear all sides of things, but just understand, if you come on the show, it's a discussion, not an argument. There is a difference. And so with that being said, everybody have a great week. Peace and love, and hug your family. There's been a lot of bad shit happening in the world, a lot of tornadoes and everything. So don't take anything for granted. Spend that time with the family when you can. And happy news, I'll have a new grandbaby at some point tomorrow. My granddaughter is supposed to be born tomorrow, so we will see, and can't wait to share some pictures with everybody. So y'all take care out there, and we'll see you all on the next one. Bye everybody.
See ya.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in the night inning. There ain't no point in resisting. Living life like a dream, live it right, that's the thing. Every night got a team, I've been tied to the scene. Out on stage, here on screen.